Who are you?
Hi, I'm Phyllis Voren. I'm a comedian, and we're in Arizona, and I'm being interviewed by Jeffrey, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, cool. And we'll just look this way. Not a confession, so don't you worry about
Was
it.
that on?
No, yeah, this is on. We're running now.
Oh, we are running. Okay, hi.
Cool. Where are you from?
I'm from Philadelphia originally. I've also lived in New York and LA.
Okay. Why? Like, how long ago did you live in LA and New York?
Oh my God. It's embarrassing because they're really high numbers, you know. But it's, let's see, I was in the late 70s probably, maybe early 80s in LA.
Do you notice like a big shift? Like, could you say like 70s New York compared to early 2000s New York? Can you compare the eras?
Compare the eras or the areas of
Like the
LA to New York.
Well, yeah, sure. How are they different to you?
Okay, they were different. First of all, in LA at the time, people weren't woke. You know, people were very unwoke, and there was a lot of the sex stuff going on in casting and in LA and all that kind of stuff. You had to be really smart to get around it because it was everywhere.
Are you saying get around it, like get around the porn industry?
No, nothing to do with porn. I'm just saying you just wanted a part in a movie. Well, the producer or somebody would ask you to come in for an interview, and the interview could mean other things. So I'm just saying sexism was rampant at that time, and it was really getting ready for a revolution, which all this Me Too stuff is now.
When you say like, would you say the sexism was just in like Hollywood, or would you say it's like you want to be a manager at Wendy's,
Right.
or would it be like?
No, I would imagine that it was widespread. The only thing in a place like Hollywood, there's more opportunity for it because you hold people's lives and careers in your hands. You know. Yeah, I think it was pretty much coast to coast. Coast to coast sexism, the best kind.
When did you notice it was like winding down? Like, wow, I don't need to suck a dick to get a role, or?
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. I wasn't doing much acting by the time things started to turn around, but I had started stand up, and there was very much sexism in the world. I mean, they still to this day, and people are getting much wiser about it. To this day, they'll say female comedians or girl or woman comedians. They don't say boy or man or anything. So it's coming around now, I think.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's just like funniest female headliner in the Valley. I'm like, just say headliner. Just like,
Right,
but,
right.
Do you think there's like small acts of sexism that doesn't really take notice? Or is it more like just those things of just like saying like, you're the funniest female out here? Or does it happen like in more subtle hints? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I haven't really noticed anything, but I'm old and undesirable. But I would say it's a personal, person-to-person situation. I haven't seen much of it, or very little of it.
Mm-hmm. And what have you done?
Except the fact that I just was talking about I'm a female comedian, so I'm a special species.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I think maybe it's because there's like a scarcity of it, or maybe because how long have you done stand-up for?
Again, when I start saying numbers, it's
Okay.
so embarrassing. Okay, I'll say in the 70s maybe. That's an easier way to put it. In the 70s, right. And it was a very different scene then. It was just like a renaissance. And then a lot of people feel that it became so widespread. Every little store, every little restaurant had their comedy show going, you know, that it just kind of brought down the quality of all. I don't know where I'd say it is, and I see comedy's very popular now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I kind of think of it as like poetry. Just like, I don't know. I feel like whenever a comic performs high and they say their joke really slow, it just sounds like slam poetry or something like that. Very thing. But do you think when you started like in the 70s and 80s, was it like just a guy's thing, or was it weird for a girl to do stand-up?
I personally didn't have that bad a time. I was able to get respect, and people acted professionally, and it was much more professional then. I was getting paid for doing a lot of private shows and being on the radio. I mean, I had a lot of work, and I was actually making a little bit, but steady money from it. And I don't see that now.
Like,
no, I don't see it. In fact, would you lend me $50? No, I'm only kidding. But
I would still say no, but respectfully, just be like, things are tight. I have a budget.
Definitely.
What is it? So have you just been doing stand up and have you had a job in between, or has it just been like, this is just what I do?
This is what I do, and I do other art forms, and I write. Excuse me. Mainly short stories. So.
Do you look back at your past work, say from 10 years ago, and is it interesting to see how your voice evolves, or has it stayed the same?
It's evolved. I know from what you would call the craft of comedy writing, I'm really good on the craft now. I know the craft. I understand how to write something down. And whether I get inspiration, that's a whole other story. But I know how to shape it. And I've always been strong with audiences. I do a lot of my own, what audience call it, audience work. I just talk to them and get them involved and make fun of them in a funny, in a nice, loving way. So I forgot what the question was.
Well, no, it's just it's just really seeing how your writing evolves, because it's interesting to see when you've done something for so long. Even when you do something for 10 years, you're like, well, I'm pretty good at this. But what's the difference between year 15 and year 24 or year 25? What's the difference in your skill set?
Yeah. I've seen it evolve. I think I'm peaking now.
Would you say
when I do a show now, I just let out all the stops. What I still could see, you're always learning, at least I'm always learning, to be open and honest and true, to really tell it like it is, and don't be afraid, because you can make yourself very vulnerable.
What do you
your material?
You say peak. What's the difference between peaking and plateauing? How do you?
I guess if you stay on the peak long enough, it's a plateau.
That's true.
Geometrically, so.
Well, I just want to know, how do you realize that? It's because it's a good thing. It's it's a hard thing to realize. I think it's easy to tell physically. I'm 25. This might be depending on how my diet is. This might be the most athletic I am in my life, versus creativity wise. It seemed like that's something that ages like fine wine, where it only gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel I can get I don't know. When I say I'm at my peak, I'm not going to be around that much longer, I don't think. And so I don't have that much time left. So the time means a lot to me, how I'm going to use that. But I still feel I could get better.
Yeah. Oh, well, I kind of, I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to be morbid, but do you putting peak there because, time is out, time's running out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if I do, some people live into their 90s and even 100, this and that, but they're usually giving up a lot of their mobility, you're not going to be the same. When you see me on stage, I'm athletic. I jump up and down. I'm punching. It's just the way the energy comes out in my body and everything. But I don't know how long I'll be able to do that. I don't know.
Have you seen yourself less physical, on stage? Because
no.
I could do that back when I was 49, but not anymore.
No. The only thing is I won't lay down because getting up is such a fucker. But no. I'm still pretty physical on stage. As much as I ever remember.
So what's something you look forward to at this part of your career?
Oh my God, I fault myself because I'm not a good planner. I don't have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan.
Well, just a general idea.
I would like to do a special, TV special, one of those 45-minute to an hour things. Or at least be part of a group one. I've seen some group ones online, the kind I'm talking about, Netflix stuff. And I'd like to act again, do some pure acting, because I had an acting career and I did some nice things. So I'd like to get a part if I could. I guess I could even write it, because that's what happens. There aren't any parts for I'll say older women. It's really old woman, but I give myself that edge. I'm kind to myself. It's like I had this line. I said, "Oh, older women make such good lovers. We're so grateful." You know. So, what else do I see happening? I want to travel again. Travel was a big part of my life, and I miss that.
Have you left the U.S.?
Oh my God, we've been to Tibet.
Oh wow, okay.
Tibet, Nepal, India, Morocco, Peru, Turkey. I can't remember the name of the main city, the big deal city in Turkey. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
I don't know geography. Yeah. I was just talking about people don't even know Alaska's a state. So.
I know. No, I like having as wide and big a life as possible.
Mm-hmm. How do you see, how was it how was has visiting other cultures impacted your art?
Oh, for sure.
In what ways?
First of all, it's a tremendous learning experience. When you live, especially in the United States, America, when you live here, you think you're the top of the world. We have everything. We know everything. We're the best. We're the leaders. And you see, not only is this not true, but arguably you're not number one. Other cultures, you can learn so much from other cultures and the way they see nature and the world. And they don't have the same set of expectations that people from different countries. We mainly met the most phenomenal people, and I like to be friendly, and so I can make friends, and they would take us into the parts of the country that tourists don't usually see. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
What's your favorite place out of all the countries you visited?
Kathmandu. It's the capital of Nepal, and there was a hippie road that people used to take when they would go to India and meditate. And this city, Kathmandu, was on the hippie road. So there were lots of hippies there. But it was such a melding of different cultures. They were Buddhist, they were Hindu, and everything else. So I'd have to say, I don't know how it is now because the communists took over. Mm-hmm. But Kathmandu, that's my favorite.
And did you do that, because do you have children?
I have 2 sons.
Okay. Did you do that, did you travel with your children, or did you do that prior?
No, most of the time they were older when I did that. Okay. But they were living in different situations, either boarding school or college.
A boarding school? What's the choice for boarding school? You're like, I need some free time. Like, you need to go.
It's a whole story about divorce and custody and everything, and it's just unpleasant. But we didn't have a normal living at home kind of experience mm-hmm. that most people do.
How do you think boarding school? Because I always like the idea of most artists, when I was reading this book, I think it's called The Originals. They said like most artists, they get their they travel a lot when they're young, so they're able to have different points of views in their art. Versus if you just lived in Kansas for your whole 30 years of your life, like you're not going to have that unique of a perspective if you didn't visit Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, South America.
Right.
So, did you like kind of give that to them, or how that?
My kids weren't that interested. They did a little traveling, but they weren't interested in what I was doing. Mm-hmm. We really had different points of view. We were really pro whatever country we were in, generally the people. In Africa, a guy called, I can't even remember his name, a terrible despot was in charge. So we saw what happened there too. We saw stuff like that. But I forget the question.
No, I just mean like, did you ever think of like, did you take your sons to go travel to like kind of build that perspective that you have?
Yeah, I wish they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they had their own experiences. My older boy, who was amazingly bright, he lived with a Spanish family for like 6 months and went to school over there when he was a teenager. So that was really a great, I tell you, the greatest learning experience in life is traveling, just traveling.
Do you think, how is it, when was the last time you did go travel?
Oh my God. It's 10, 15, like 15 years. The last place we were at was Morocco.
Okay. Did you see it? Because I'm always interested, like, what was the difference when you came back to the U.S. and then, like, because I was told, like, you just noticed the difference in, like, the type of people that, like, when you live abroad for a while. Or did you notice that?
I think so. I think that we have a more universal or hemispheric, a bigger view, and most of the people here in America who haven't traveled, who stayed near where they lived, they think that's the world, that's their only experience of it. And maybe when I was young I read like crazy, and that was the beginning of wanting to get into a bigger world for me. So if these people don't read and if they don't travel, they're probably going to be very narrow-minded.
What type of reading did you do to kind of make you open-minded? Was it kind of
when I was very young?
Because you say reading and traveling. Of course, traveling, you get to if you live in a small, like if you live in the Midwest and you go to New York, you're like, wow, there's more than just one color of people here.
Right.
What type of reading did you do?
I had teachers that took me under their wing because they saw that I loved to read and whatever, and they gave me a list of the classics. So I read all of Twain. I loved Mark Twain. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's great material because he's a humorist, and he got all kinds of awards for being a humorist. So stand-up comics, this would be like food for them to read his stuff.
Because I know there's the Mark Twain Award that I remember one year, I think Dave Chappelle won it a year or two ago, and then some other big names, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, he influenced Hemingway, and then I majored in college in literature, English literature. So I really got to read a wide variety of books.
How do you feel about reading today as feel like less people do it and less every single year? Like, how do you feel like smartphones and just finding everything on there instead of reading a book?
I am very anti-machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I call myself, let me see, TD, techno deficient. I am like, my husband is very good at it, so he just takes care of anything like that. And I think that the machines, one of the most popular themes of science fiction was that the machines take over the people that think they're running them.
Yeah.
And that shows up over and over and over. And I think it's not so far from reality because we're so dependent, and they take a layer of humanity away from you. The doctor I see wants to see me Zoom. The psychiatrist I see wants to see me Zoom. I mean, these were very important relationships that people had. And it's not the same. It's lacking the human element. So this is really a sore issue with me that you touched on.
Because I know there's this one thing, it's just how do you take over humanity? Just make things very convenient for them. Just keep on making things more convenient.
Right.
More and more. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even now, my husband tells me if some foreign country or something ever got to the main areas where we get all the juice from and bombed it or got rid of it, people would be paralyzed without their machines.
And so you hate iPhones and everything like that?
I have a cell phone.
You have, of course.
I have a cell phone, but I use it for word processing.
How did people contact you for gigs in the 90s?
In the 90s, people use a phone.
Well, they just give you a call, just if you didn't pick up the phone, it's just well, you messed up.
Well, everybody had answering machines then.
Oh, okay.
So you could play it over and over. So that's what I think it was.
Because I think it was just it's weird hearing how people, I think I heard a podcast with older comics, and it's just if you didn't show up in the 80s, it's just you didn't know. You couldn't just give a call. It's just how you couldn't call. It's hey, I'm not going to show up. You just didn't know.
Right. So, I mean, one time I did something, I was doing a private show, and it was some big business company and upper echelon people there. So I had them, I said, okay, I don't know how I said it. I said something like, who has a cell phone? They all had cell phones. I said, I want you to pick up your cell phone now and call the person next to you. And they were all doing it. It was so funny. It made a point.
I feel well, what point?
The point is, you're here in the now, in the flesh. Let's be together. Let's communicate. Let's lock eyes. Let's give human vibes back and forth.
Mm-hmm. How is it, because your children are grown now, how is it having a family and then being stand-up, being an actor and all that? How's the balance?
Well, there was special things going on in my children's life, all their life, and they live very far from me. They're not comfortable with the sexual material that I do.
Understandably.
And that's like a biggest no-no, that kids don't want to know that their parents are have sex or are sex or whatever.
I thought you were going to say, like, kids don't want to know their parents are sex addicts, like that.
Yeah, that they were all immaculately conceived. All of you.
What is that word?
Immaculately conceived.
No, you said immaculately.
Did I say that?
I don't know. You said something like that. I was like, she reads a lot of books.
And I thought the grass had worn off.
Okay. What do you see as what's a learning curve you deal with now in your life?
Learning curve?
Okay.
I want to continue with my writing and get it published, even if it's self-published. I really like the short stories, and I have a one-woman show in 3 acts, but I'm thinking of having it published. I have trouble memorizing things, and to do a one-woman show would be a lot of memorization.
Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself, is there trouble doing longer sets, like 45 minutes due to memorization?
I can do 30 now. I could work it up to 45. It's funny, earlier in my career I did an hour at a club.
Do you think that's like the age portion comes into it? You're like, shit, I can't remember what that said.
No, I'll tell you, I take special herbal Chinese medicine for memory. I take 9 of them a day, 3 before each meal, and they have helped me tremendously. My memory was never my strong suit, mm-hmm. And then it's my memory is like, what's your name again? No, I remember.
No. So like the one woman show, and you like, do you set deadlines for what you want to do, or is it just kind of like taking the energy to go start it?
Generally I don't, but I do have a really good trick that I used to use and I still use sometimes. It's a little goal chart, and it's like you have a square of paper and you put a cross, so you have 4 little categories, 4 boxes, and then you label the boxes personal and career, or work and personal, and then you label the sides 3 months and then 6 months. Okay, so I have short-term goals, or things that I want to accomplish in the next 3 months, short-term, 3 to 6 months I give myself for that. And then I have long-term goals. Where do I want to be a year from now? Do I want to be on a studio lot, selling my script or something? So then I have long-term goals, and then you have personal goals and career goals or work goals. I don't know if I just described it very well.
No, I mean, like, I think that's a basic thing of just kind of like writing out your goals. It's kind of like it marinates more. Like, I don't know, I just like kind of wrote some goals and I laminate on a piece of paper, and then I just kind of just put it on the bathroom mirror and just kind of like look at it. Like, how am I on the track to those?
Right. Basically, so everybody has their own little thing they do, mm-hmm. or how they approach it.
Yeah. How do you think when you look, because like, then again, I don't say this like as like in a negative way, but like, since you've been through time, you've been through enough time.
A lot of time.
Do you look at certain eras and you're like, wow, I wish I would have, like, not that I wish, but it sure would be different to start comedy in the year 2022 rather than the year 1970?
Well, I don't ask that specific question about when I started my comedy. But I have made some errors, some mistakes in my life that had tremendous ramifications. So I look back and I wonder what would have been if I had made a different decision. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't know. I guess it's called regrets.
What are some decisions that you wish you would have done differently? Or what's like a common thing you see people do? Because I don't want to say just stand up, but kind of like you're just doing art in general.
Well, I don't know how far back I want to go, but let me see. When my children were young, I would have stayed in New York so that their father maybe wouldn't have contested custody. So that's one thing. And then all the things that happened with the children. Now, on my own work, I started out as an actress. I started out when I was around 30 years old. I studied with Lee Strasberg. I studied with Stella Adler. They were the two biggest names in the whole century of acting in New York. And they did the Marlon Brando realistic kind of school. And I went around and I did off Broadway. And then I started getting commercials. And I did about half a dozen, but they paid very well. Mm-hmm. They had a system. And then everybody was saying I wasn't getting the serious work I wanted. I really wanted films. I wish I had concentrated on theater, but I wanted to do films. And so everybody was saying, you'll do better in LA, you'll do better in, I was a beautiful young woman. They said, go to LA, you're just what they need. We went to LA, and there were 1 million beautiful young women there from all over the world. And I didn't really have much of a step up. But I did get a part in a series, and just the opening series. And I'm still getting money 30, more than that, almost 40 years later, I'm still getting residuals on that thing because they must show it around the world. I mean, tiny checks, like $6.
No, I heard they don't do the residuals anymore on any shows because Netflix just buys the show outright.
Really?
So that's when I talked, because I was listening to, you remember Full House?
Yeah.
Like Stephanie or Jodie Sweetin, she said that she'd still get some checks from Full House because it reruns so much. But it's not like it's enough to pay the bills, but Netflix and these companies just buy out the show. So there's like the owner, the Squid Games?
Squid Games?
Squid Games. It's like the highest.
I've heard of them, but I don't know what they are.
It's like the highest grossing TV show ever.
Okay.
And then because Netflix.
Is it like a family I mean, what is the plot?
Oh, the plot is that it's a Korean show, and then these people do these games. And then if they don't win the game, they die. But the winner gets, say, $27 million. And then it's just like these people are dying. And then it took the guy probably 10 years to write the script. He sold his computer. I don't know. But the main thing is it's the highest grossing TV show ever. And the guy only made maybe $800,000 from it because Netflix just bought it outright. And
when they buy it out, do they buy the actors' role playing, the acting? Do they?
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but I just know that residual thing is not there because they're doing so many shows. They just buy it, so it's just okay. I assume if they get when they get renewed for season 2, that's when they have to bring in the trucks.
Well, see, this is like a union thing. It's Screen Actors Guild, and I don't know if they've changed everything so much, but the deal was every time it showed, you got a percentage. You got a very minuscule, and if it showed in if it was a commercial, if it showed in prime time, you got more money. If it showed in the afternoon, you got less money. If it showed up in the big cities, there were all these rules. Mm-hmm. And man, I earned back 30, 40 years ago, I earned $12,000 in 1 year from one commercial.
Yeah, I can't say how it is for sure, but that's just what it seems like in the article. And just the way things go with streaming now, you don't have prime time hours. You have maybe if it's on a network like ABC and they do it, but like now it's like if Netflix just buys it up, they don't have primetime hours. People just watch it 24/7.
Right. It's a whole different ball game. It's everything.
Yeah.
Are we done?
No, we're still going.
We're still going now?
Yeah, we've been going. I just had to. I had to reset it. That's why I put my finger up. Just like, all right, I'm just gonna start, and go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. We're just having a nice talk with you. That's all. It's so funny.
No, it's just funny. It's just funny. It's just funny to me. But kind of to cool things off. Usually I ask like, what would you want to say to yourself 10 years from now? But then you're all in the mindset, you know, I might be dead, correct? So like,
I'm very suicidal.
Okay. Well, at least why do those thoughts? Like, I don't want to get too deep. It's like, is it like a always thing that's lingering in your mind, or is it just kind of like I'm sad right now?
What the question was is like, suicide?
Yeah. Is it?
It's always lingering in my mind.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it get exaggerated for certain things? Like I hit a red light, or.
I have problems with depressions, and when the depressions take hold of me, that's when it's very active.
Okay. I didn't even know that side of you. That's crazy. Not that I should know that side of you.
I even had it. I try to kill myself. I'm trying to write a routine. It's very hard to get the comedy out of it. But it's just about 3 years ago, I overdosed. I took like 60 pills of Dramamine. Dramamine's like a travel medicine. Yeah. Why? Because I like to travel, you know. And then I put them in, put all this powdered ones that I crunched up. I put them in a bowl of Haagen-Dazs melted chocolate ice cream. Why Haagen-Dazs? I didn't want it to be a complete downer, you know. So, and I ended up in this psych ward, this Phoenix psych ward that I called the loony bin, and the people there were so crazy. They were. This is my line. There were schizos, there were paranoids, there were drug addicts, not unlike the Phoenix comic scene.
Okay, true. when you get done, like you survive, is it kind of like I should have put more in there, or is it kind of like you're grateful? I'm like I survived.
I may have flashes of gratitude now and then, but no, my present is too much dealing with depression.
Oh.
So
is that like everything that was lingering from like a youth?
I started it in my I had puberty maybe. I mean, since I'm at least a teenager or less.
What was it identified in that time? Because that's when mental health was not.
I was just called moody.
She just being a woman. Nah, push it aside.
No, my mother would say, how can I deal with her? She's so moody. She's hot and cold. Of course I'm hot and cold. I'm bi-fucking-polar. No, there was no real understanding. This is the 50s we're talking about.
Okay. Then again, okay. Every time we say a number, it goes back more and more. I'm like, shit, okay. How is it? Because I feel like things were very more... I can't say because I was born in 97. So when you say like...
Oh, you baby.
I don't know, but when I hear like...
25?
25, yeah.
25.
Yeah, when I was talking to your husband, he's like, we got married, we're 26 years. Like, wow, that's more than me. That's a while. What is it, though, in the 50s? Because I feel like they're like, well, if there's a problem, let's just surgery to the brain. Or,
what?
Like when you...
The 50s.
Well, like with mental health. Did they like
Oh, my God, no. It was just not an acceptance of it. And seeing a psychiatrist or even a therapist was very unusual. Now everybody has a therapist.
Yeah, that seems like the popping occupation right now. That seems like...
Right. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I just have always had this and nothing has ever really helped. There's a thing, what's it called now? A kind of genetics, a theory that they're saying we don't just get our parents' genes, you know, physically. What do we call it? Their initials, their DNA.
Yeah.
We get our parents' DNA, but we also get their memories. that they can actually pass that on. If it's a memory that it's like very traumatic.
Does it work the other way?
It's like the children of Holocaust survivors all have problems that are similar to each other and related to fear.
Does it work vice versa?
How would that be?
I don't know, because of course, like it'd be more, the negative would be more noticeable, but it's just like, a more generic thing is like enjoying Disneyland or something like that because your parents had the best time there or something.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Do you, of course, kind of wrap it up, and then if it's too much, but like when you get depressed, I always feel like, I've always thought like if I ever get slightly sad, I know what I enjoy. Like I know what I like to do. I like to paint. I like to go for a lift, like go work out. Do you do the things you like to do when you get sad? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I try to.
Does it still not make a difference?
I just, it's like swimming up through sludge, you know.
Can you break that down, like sludge? Because it's an interesting analogy. Like you should be happy about this, but it's just like nothing.
It's all the way you look at something. I mean, just everybody looks at your paintings and sees something different. But I could look at my life in this moment. I work very hard to be grateful for what I have. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I have is a wonderful marriage, a real great relationship with my husband. But if you can look at it, you could find things that are wrong. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know how to describe it. Depression is something, I'm sure it's different with different people. Mm-hmm. But basically, it's a feeling of hopelessness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, yeah, it's just like an interesting thing. I'm always like curious about people's perspective because I think it's just like it's like the main thing is it always there? Because I know it's like when people are like all recovering, like do they all like recovering alcoholics or something like that? Is alcohol that's just something is always on their mind but yeah. But I don't know. What would you say to someone to kind of cap this off to someone that's, of course, it doesn't sound like you found the solution to depression, but like what would you say to someone that's going through depression and they're right now?
I'll say what's been said to me. Don't do it alone. Find somebody to talk to. Try anything and everything.
Or be
a friend to yourself.
Is there a hesitancy to open up to people?
With me, no.
Okay.
I'm very open.
You are an open person. Yeah, I love the color waves, but...
Yeah, this has been delightful.
Okay, cool. You want to cap anything off, or are we good?
Just thank you. And again, there's wonderful art on the wall done by this gentleman. And pay attention to it.
Okay. I use the pink backdrop because like, oh, wow. Are they in a bathroom? I don't know. All right, fade to black.